Hey everybody, Carl here, and welcome back to the ToyWiz Miniatures stream here on twitch.tv/ToyWizStore. Before I begin, a little bit of house cleaning. First up, a warning, Vivi, my new kitten, is being a little extra rambunctious this morning, so hopefully he won't be jumping up onto the table. Secondly, more importantly, today is the final day for the store's miniatures painting contest. So if you have your miniature, if you've painted it all up and everything, make sure to go on in and drop it off. So starting tomorrow through next Saturday, people can vote. The tournament involves using Star Wars Legion miniatures. You take a named legendary character, paint it up, put it on display. After the various customers that come in throughout the week vote, the winner will receive a special limited edition Luke Skywalker figure. So very nice prize to be had if you are playing, or participating rather, in the contest. Third thing, I always like to give shout outs to my my fellow ToyWiz folk, but especially I want to give a shout out to Lewis, our miniatures guy today, who gave me some advice as far as what I should be using to touch up today's piece. That having been said, let's get down to it. What I have here in front of me, if you were watching last week, well, first of all, if you were watching last week, thank you. But what I have here in front of me is the Catan Shard of the Void Dragon. It's a piece from the Necron army. I don't actually play Necrons, but when they originally announced this piece, I'm like, oh my goodness, this thing is gorgeous. I need to own it. So I bought it. And then 2 weeks ago, I assembled it. Last week, I applied the basic painting to it. As you can see, compared to the official image up in the corner there, I decided to go with a bit of a different color scheme. But I think he came out amazing, but I want to make it look even better. So today we're going to be working on a couple of techniques I haven't used in past streams. We're going to be doing some dry brushing, we're going to be applying some shades, and yeah, hopefully we're going to make this guy look even better. So the first thing I'm going to do before I get to all the cool stuff I just mentioned is I'm going to go back to using some bases. Because as you can see on the base here and on some of the other stones that are up in the air, we have these little scarabs, and I just want to make sure they're touched up a little bit, because when I was applying the Shaiish purple to the stones, some of them got covered up just a little bit, so I just want to make sure I got them all set. So I'm going to use a very, very fine detail brush here. I'm just going to go in and anything that's been covered up. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to put on a magnifier, which you can't see because I don't have a camera up there, but it's certainly going to help me with this. There we go. Now then, like this little guy here. Oh goodness, I missed some of the purple around him. There we go. I'm also using different music this time around, which I think already stopped, so let's just see if we can get that going again. Fix that a bit more for next time. But I'm using music from purple-planet.com. Royalty-free music that's nice and relaxing. They got a whole bunch of different free MP3s available for download, which I forgot to do, so I'm just kind of streaming the samples at the moment. I'm still getting the hang of all this. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the quality on the camera is a little bit better this week than in past weeks. And it's not so much the camera, but I actually got and it literally arrived about 5 minutes before I started streaming, some new lighting. So that should help to make things look a little bit better, so you can see things a little bit better when I hold them up to the camera. And yeah, like I said, I'm just going to put a little touches here and there on the oh, there's one that definitely needs it, on the scarabs, before we move on to some dry brushing. Downside with using the magnifier is it definitely, because it magnifies everything, sometimes makes it a little difficult to figure out exactly where my brush is and where the miniature is. Alrighty. That's a decent enough fix. I'm going to be going a little more onto these guys too a little bit later, because I'm going to, when I'm doing the shading, try to shade them too to give a little extra definition other than having them as just big shiny gold blobs. So let's turn this fellow around. I drop some of the dirt on the desk. And let's wipe this brush off, get that excess Retributor gold paint off of it. And make sure we cap it up nicely so it doesn't dry out. And the kitten has now moved onto my bed and is sitting there nice and comfortably, so hopefully he will stay there and behave himself the rest of this stream. Alright, let's take off this this magnifier. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do first is I had gotten some Fulgrim Pink, which I want to use to kind of highlight the electricity, to kind of make it pop a bit more, make it look a bit more like it actually is, you know, light and electricity instead of just. And don't get me wrong, I think it's really cool. In fact, right now it looks kind of like veiny and everything. So you take the Fulgrim Pink, which is a layer paint. I'm not exactly sure how this is different from, you know, other types of paints, but back when I originally started painting, my goodness, this thing's stuck there. But I originally had started painting, you know, years and years ago. Almost, there we go. It was just, you had paint and that was it. We didn't have the, back in my day, we didn't have these contrasts and these shades. So I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work, but we'll find out together. I believe the layers are a little, maybe not a little thinner, they don't really feel a little thinner. I'm going to load up a little bit on the edge of the brush here. And I'm going to take my paper towel on the side here, and I'm going to wipe it off. Now that I have the bulk of the paint off of the brush, I still have a little bit that's in there, and I'm going to use that to just very lightly, just going to dance the brush over it. So only little bits and pieces will kind of get highlighted there. Now with layers, you can also just, you know, put the layer paint directly on as is, but I don't want to overwhelm the what I've got going. So that's why I'm only using a little bit, and that's why I'm using the dry brush instead of just painting it. Also making sure that it kind of only hits on, you know, key pieces of it instead of going over the entire thing. Okay, got the back done. Let's move on to the front, and then we'll start working our way down and hit the tons of electricity on the bottom. I'm also going to give a little touch to the energetic Ankh that he has as his face. There we go. Got just the least little highlights of pink, of a lighter, brighter pink, over the darker pink of the Volupus. Can I stop saying pink? My goodness. But the, so you have little just bits and pieces here and there that just kind of let it shine out a little bit more than just kind of being a solid dark pink color. Next, let's go on to the Ankh. It's a nice way to just add a little extra depth and color to your pieces. Nice and easy. And you don't necessarily want to do too much. I mean, obviously, it's when you're doing your own, you can do it however you'd like. Maybe you want a little more of the lighter color out on the top, just to give it a little extra kick. Maybe you want to be a bit more understated, like I'm doing. It's when you're painting it, it's your miniature, it's your army, or your just display piece, whatever you're using it for. The most important person to make happy with it, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, is you. Because it's your miniature. Make it the way you like it. And for me, that's just with a little highlights here and there to make it crackle. Don't know how well the contrast is getting picked up, even with the better lighting this week, but it's definitely visible. It's subtle, but again, like I said before, that's the look I'm aiming for, because I don't want it to be too overbearing. And there's some parts that are a little brighter than others from it, and there are other parts that are darker, but that's part of the overall appeal, to make it seem like crackling, unstable energy that's coming out here. Keep going back into the pot, and it's funny because the bulk of the paint is getting just taken right back off of the brush, but still got to do it this way if I want to make this come out right. And with this piece, I really want to make sure it looks as good as I can possibly make it, because this is easily my favorite of the miniatures I put together so far. Both in terms of, just my general pride in the work that I've done on it, and my, ability continuing to improve the more and more I do this, and also partially because it just looks amazing. I really love the look on it. This looks like it should be the final form of a Final Fantasy boss. Actually, with it being a Necron piece, maybe this could have been, the random space flea from nowhere that shows up at the end of Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX being my second favorite of the Final Fantasy games, with number 6 being my absolute favorite. But if you have played the game before, you may have noticed when I mentioned the name of my kitten earlier, Vivi. Vivi is the name of a character from Final Fantasy IX, who's also happens to be, if you can see on the edge there, I'm going to really kind of get myself low. He's on my my shirt here. Looks a bit like Orko from He-Man. But yeah, I figured I got a little black cat with enormous yellow eyes, and you know what? We're naming him Vivi. His middle name is Alphador, after Janice's cat from Chrono Trigger, which is my favorite video game of all time. Originally, I was just going to name him Vivi, and that's part of why I wanted to get a black cat with big yellow eyes, so I would have an appropriate look to go with the name. But then when I mentioned to my friend Joe that, hey, I've got a new kitten, and I described him, and I said, what do you think I'm going to name him? And he said, Alphador. And I'm like, oh, son of a gun, how could I forget Alphador when I was such a huge fan of Chrono Trigger? But I really wanted to, doesn't quite fit as much with the look. So, you know what? Alphador is going to be his middle name. And thus he sits on my bed looking out the window at the dreary rainy day outside. good day to be inside and painting. Alrighty, let's clean off this brush, which is already fairly clean, because all it has left is the dried paint. And we'll just dry that off. Let's get a new bit of paper towel here. And I'm going to take a quick sip of my seltzer. Excuse me. Next I've got a kind of a medium purple to, it's the Xerius purple, I believe it's pronounced, which it's definitely still lighter than the Shaiish purple I've got on there, so this should give a nice added depth to the dark purple stones that he's got both inside his wings and from the crumbling base beneath him. Okay, now let's see how this ends up. So let's load up the brush and then clear it. And we'll start very lightly with bits on the wings. Again, I just want a little, just hints of it to give it a little more contrast than the contrast paints did. I should have gone with a bit of a lighter one, but we'll see. Probably gonna look a little bit better on the stones where it's a bit, there's more surface area, so it'll pick up a bit differently. Because it is extremely light on the stones in his wings. You know, let's just try. I don't want to go too crazy. I was thinking about maybe just applying the paint directly, but like I said, I don't want to overwhelm it, and I don't want to have to go running into the other room and grabbing back the Shaiish purple to go over my errors. Not to mention, I'm not exactly sure how well the contrast paint would go over the layer paint. I think one of the things I will do, though, is I'll start getting a little bit less of a run against the paper towel, so I'll pull just a little bit less of the purple off of there. Okay. Maybe I'll come back a bit with the detail brush so I can see how it ends up going with the smaller bits on his crown. Okay, you know what, let's really get this on in there and load the brush up before we unload it. And let's see what happens as we just lightly... Oh, that's pretty nice. It's not quite as light as I had hoped the contrast would be on it, but in fact it's probably too light for it to really show up on the camera, unfortunately. But it's giving a pretty nice, very, very subtle balance. Like I said before, subtlety is certainly the name of the game here, at least for the effects that I'm aiming for. Okay, just looking up at my stream here, it looks like it's, you know, at least getting some of the job done as far as showing the effect. just going to start dipping directly into the pot instead of in the lid. We'll see how that goes. Let's try some of these larger pieces down here. Subtle, but it definitely works. Although I think next time I do this, maybe I'll go with a bit of a lighter shade just to give it a little more contrast. But at the end of the day, I'm happy with the way it looks, and that is the most important part. Like I said before, and I'll just say it again, and I'll keep saying it, the most important person to impress is you. So if you like the look, that's the most important thing. If somebody else doesn't, well, the heck with them. You know, let's test this without doing the dry brush technique and see how it looks. Maybe I'll do it on one of the smaller pieces, like up here, see how that goes. Nope, definitely too much. I was definitely in the right to do it with the dry brush technique. That's a small piece, so... And the, like I said before, the contrast is very subtle, so I don't need to worry too much about that one being a bit more of the lighter purple scheme. Okay, so keep going on with applying just a little more dry brushed paint to the floating rocks before I move on to the base on the ground there. Now when dry brushing, you really do usually want to kind of go against the grain of the texture on the pieces. So this way the brush will pick up on whatever parts are, you know, sticking up from everything else. I'm not quite succeeding at that as I'm doing this, but let's see. Let's just quickly get this one over here. I think I missed the front of it. I got the back of it just fine. Okay. Again, very subtle, but it is working. But next, we gotta get the bottom. And there is a lot of surface area to cover there, so I think what I'm going to do, instead of using this larger basing brush for it, I'm going to move on to the big, wide, flat one that I use to do the actual base, as opposed to doing a base coat. First, let's make sure we get the other brush nice and clean, because we don't want to get it to stiffen up. So remember, when you're cleaning off your brush, just run it up against the side of the mug, or whatever you're keeping your water in, and give it a little bit of spin, both to kind of push some of the paint that may be stuck in there out, and to kind of re-sculpt its point. Alrighty. Just dip this on in there, and then pull the paint back off. And like I said before, it is, I know I keep saying it, but I'm going to keep repeating it. It is a very subtle look. But when you get a closer look at it, it's certainly visible. Again, mostly it's going to be on the protrusions that are picking the stuff up. So like the edges of the steps that are all shattered, the outer parts of the grooves of the stone, bits that are kind of sculpted in there. And that's always going to be the case when you're dry brushing. Subtlety is always going to end up being the name of the game. And as always, and I've said it with all of my streams, and I'll keep repeating it, you can always add more paint if you want to get a little more of the color in there and change the look that way. It's a lot harder to deal with removing paint, so better to go too little than too much. Okay, I think we're good with the purple. Next, the plan is to move on to the Null Oil, which is a shade, which I've never used a shade before, so I guess we're both going to figure out how that's going to work. But before we get to that, I do want to quickly go and do a little touching up. The only thing that really was kind of missing, or needs a little bit more from when I was painting last week, was the tube that's attached to his little spinal whip weapon, whatever you want to call that, tail. And just going to need to put a little more of the Ethermatic blue just to touch that up a little. So I think we'll go with the regular base coat brush for this one, which did dry, so it's got a little stiffness to it, but that's okay. And we'll get some of the nice, really thin contrast paint here. And just going to go in, and we can see there's lighter parts because the paint had pooled in kind of weird ways. Just going to touch that up and darken it a bit. There we go. Let's just turn around, hit the other side of it. Oops, get a little more paint in there. Okay, that's looking a little bit better, a little more consistent instead of having quite so many gaps here and there in the color. Alrighty, now for the part that I am most afraid of doing, and that is the shade. So I have some Null Oil here, which, oops, forgot to give myself another piece of paper toweling. Okay, so the shades, from what I understand from what Lewis was telling me, work in a similar manner to the contrast paints. It is a much thinner type of paint, and it's designed to kind of get in there. It darkens whatever you're applying it to, but then it pools and darkens more in the pools. So I'm going to be using this for the body, so that this way we get a little more definition. It'll darken the little lines, like where his musculature is and everything. And I just realized I forgot to do the purple in his crown. So since I'm still afraid of, of touching the shade, I'm going to go back and take care of the purple first. So let's get back to that and fix that up a little bit with a very, very tiny bit of dry brushing. These little bits in his crown are really small. I just want to give the little slightest impressions of a bit more light and shadow in there. Nothing too crazy. There we go. Alrighty. So, since I have the fine detail brush out here, and because I'm afraid to start hitting the big stuff, I think what I'm going to do is with the Null Oil, I'm going to start by testing it out and seeing how well I'm able to work with it on the scarabs. This will, kind of dull the really bright, shiny golden thing that they got going, and hopefully give a little more contrast to the little indentations and the etchings around them. Alrighty. And Null Oil is by far the most popular of the shades that we carry. Okay. Moment of truth. Let's start with this little guy up top here. And that is extremely invisible. Okay, let's try a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Now, one of the things to be careful of with your shades, as Lewis was nice enough to warn me, is if it pools too much, it's going to get glossy, even if you're using a non-gloss shade. So if you start getting a little too much in there, you might want to go and try to pull some of that excess off with your brush. And one of the things that's nice about what I'm doing with this right now is that because I have it on the darker, all these scarabs are sitting on darker purple stones, I've got a little leeway where I can kind of cover up some of the spots that might have gotten a little of the gold on them on the stone itself. And anything like that kind of is extra around them is going to be a lot less noticeable. In fact, I probably can go with a bigger brush on these guys too. I guess we'll see also how they look once they dry, but it's definitely doing a nice job of kind of getting into little cracks where there's detail on their bodies and kind of darkening them so it's not just a big solid blob of gold. Not bad. Yeah, I think I am getting a little sloppy with them now that I'm not so terrified of using it. I might be using a little too much, but Again, I'm definitely liking the effect that it's giving, so I'll start using these shades a bit more often. Both for the general contrast elements of them and to kind of fill in some mistakes in the darker areas. Alrighty. Yep, those scarabs look a hell of a lot better now, if I do say so myself. It's probably going to be a little tough to see with the distance on the camera there, and as I bring it up closer, it just gets all blurry because the focal distance is a bit tougher to maintain. But yeah, definitely liking the effect. So let's clean off the fine detail brush, and we're going to move on to something a bit bigger. So I'm going to start coating his body. Alrighty then. I guess we'll go with, go back to that later. We'll go with this number 2 brush here. Load that on up. Not too much. You can always dip a little back in there. And let's start with his foot. Get a little bit on there. And then just work our way up his body. So we'll go in there and highlight all the individual creases, his musculature, his toes. When we get up to his hands, his fingers. And in general, it's also just going to kind of darken the really bright, metallic, bluish color that the Grey Knight steel gives. And again, we definitely, in this case, we do want it to pool in the smaller bits to give, that depth to all the little creases and crevices. I'm looking a bit more Silver Surfer than Dr. Manhattan by the time I'm done with them. Really let it get into the creases of his muscles there. Make sure those fingers stand out. Muscles on his back. Tendons in his neck. I think they're called tendons. Just really let it pool in those little darker spaces. We want that extra definition. But not too much, because again, we don't want it to get all glossy. Then again, his skin is fairly metallic, so glossy isn't going to be the end of the world on this. Yeah, this is really making the musculature stand out. Make sure we get a little more on the other side there. I definitely paid a little more attention to his right side than his left, so try to get on in here, get his abs going. What abs there are that aren't literally falling off of him in pixelated glory. In the armpit, muscles of his upper arms. I think it's a pretty solid effect there. Let's get his butt crack too, why not? And up into his back. Alrighty. That's nice. Like I said, it definitely tones down some of the bluishness, so it makes them a bit more like regular silver. Darkens it a little bit. And definitely adds those little bits of further definition all over the place. And this shade is even thinner than the contrast paints are. At least it feels that way. Maybe about as thin, but that gives you an idea of what exactly I'm working with here. You know what? Let's do his crown also. Just to give it a bit more definition like I did with the scarabs. In fact, I'm thinking I might also hit up his wings too a little bit. The ToyWiz Twitch stream where Carl learns the joys of using shade paints and then goes overboard with them. I'm trying to make sure that definitely pools in the little joins to make sure those stand out. That gives a very nice effect. You know what? Yeah, let's do the wings too. I think I'm going to leave the spine tail part as is, but just a little bit to make the gaps where the different pieces of metal are connected stand out a bit more. And there we go. And as you can see, it's definitely kind of like fitting into the little like circles and etched pieces to darken there and give that a little extra bit of definition. Okay, I'm going to do the back side of the wings, then I'm going to move over and do the front. Again, just want to make sure we add in plenty of that extra definition and little shadows here and there. And because I'm painting, let's give you guys a little extra bonus. I don't know if any of you that are watching play Magic the Gathering, but recently Wizards of the Coast did, as part of one of their secret lair drops, a bunch of basic lands featuring artwork by the late, great Bob Ross. And when you purchase the secret lair drop from them, you get a code for half of them to unlock their skins in Magic Arena. So if you're playing online, you can now have your online deck also feature a bunch of Bob Ross lands. And once you unlock the image, you don't need to, like, it's not like you're just getting one copy of each of those lands. You can use it for however many of those basics you want. So you can have a deck just filled with Bob Ross goodness. But like I said, the secret lair set, the codes only come for 5 of the lands, 1 of each basic land type. Well, Wizards was nice enough to offer, as just for free on their various social media, codes for the remaining 5 of them. So if you are playing Magic the Gathering Arena and would like to add some Bob Ross goodness to your decks, well, let me tell you how. You go into the store in the game, and where it says redeem code, to get one of the planes, you enter the code Delightful Meadow. The D in Delightful is capitalized, the M in Meadow is capitalized, and there's no space between the 2 words. Make sure you enter it just like that, and that will get you a planes. For the island, the code is Island Wilderness. Again, both words are connected, so there's no space between them, and the first letter of each word is capitalized. So capitalize the I, capitalize the W. Island Wilderness to get a free Bob Ross Island skin. For a swamp, it's probably the best one, Happy Swamp. Capital H for Happy, capital S for Swamp, and there you go. What's next? Mountain. The code is simply Move Mountains, and that is mountains plural. So it's capital M for move, capital M for mountains. Move mountains to get the Bob Ross mountain in your arena library. And finally, we've got the forest. And that one I am blanking on the name of, so let me quickly open up the ToyWiz Discord, because I posted these there. Ah, yes, actually no, this is even better than Happy Swamp. To get the forest, use the code TreeFriend, capital T, lowercase R-E-E, capital F, lowercase R-I-E-N-D. So that's how you get your Bob Ross basic lands in Magic Arena. And now that I've finished with the shading and with the dry brushing, I want to go and add a little more to the base, just because some of the little bits of the dirt and everything have kind of come loose. So we're going to apply some more of the Agrellan Badland there. And once that's all done, we're going to call this a finished miniature. And then we're going to take a brief break, and when I return from that break, we're going to return to putting together some of the Start Collecting kit for, what's it called, 1,000 Suns. Blanking on the name of the stuff that I am putting together. Okay, so we're going to go in here and So we're just going to apply a little more of the Agrellan Badlands around the edges here. Get the spots where maybe things fell off a little bit and got a little messier. Just don't have any, bits in here where you can still see the primer through them. Alrighty, I think just about done here. Just get a little more on the side there. There we go. Okay, and I think this guy is done. So we're just going to clean off the brush, get that Agrellan Badland dirt and silt on off of there. When you're using the technical paints for your basing, you're actually getting the full 3D thing going on there. So I'm going to dry this off. And I will indulge your patience for just a moment while I take a brief break. So thank you, those of us who've been watching, those of you who've been watching so far, and I'll be back in just a few moments. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. I am back, and I have brought back the Thousand Suns Start Collecting Kit that I started assembling, goodness, quite a while ago. It was probably towards the middle of October, because at the end of October we had 3 weeks off from our stream because we had a couple of artists in who were signing copies of exclusive comic book covers they had made for us. And then I immediately jumped into that Catan Shard of the Void Dragon. So when last we left off, I had assembled parts of a bunch of the Rubric Space Marines, and one entire one. So let's see exactly what is next for the rest of these guys. And we'll take it from there. As you can see, my puppy has joined us, and she is just lying down in the background there. And while Missy Pixie is waiting there nice and patiently, I have no idea where Vivi went. Vivi Vent, my goodness. So I guess we'll find that out soon enough. Okay, so it looks like we last left off with this page of the instructions, which is going to get us the arms and heads as well as the backpacks for the rest of the Marines, with this one being one that really stood out with the Soul Reaper cannon. It's that one up there that I put together first. Okay then, so let's move on next to, well, 11B is the other back for the Soul Reaper cannon one. So let's move on here to the other Rubric Marines. We're going to begin with, since we have, let's just grab one of these at random. We need to get some arms. So the arms are parts 5 and 6, which are indicated over here with which numbers go together. So I guess we'll start with I think 109 and 110, unless I already used those. So let's go digging in and see if we can find them. This one appears to be a bunch of pistols, a couple of heads, and a bunch of backpacks, so definitely not that one. What do we have over here? We have some more heads, some more pistols, got a hand there. Ah, here are a bunch of arms. And yes, I did take 109 and 110 out already, so let's move on to 111 and 112. Which appear to be right over here. And yes, during the break I did go and actually download the MP3s as I was supposed to. So we're going to have hopefully an uninterrupted playlist of nice, soothing, royalty-free music from purpleplanet.com. So thank you very much to them for offering us the ability to have just a little something going on in the background, so I don't feel the need to keep talking over and over and driving you crazy while I am assembling things. I'm just going to take the file and just make sure we smooth out some of the ridges where I cut them off from the sprues. Except I seem to have forgotten that I also need... Oh, no, I do have the torsos on here already. Never mind. Ignore me. Ignore me. It looks like there was supposed to have been a little bit of a gap there. Maybe I cut that incorrectly when I was doing this. That would be disappointing. Yes, it looks like it's supposed to have something there to kind of match the arm up to. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, well, before I go over to that then, let me also grab one of the, let's see. I really like the look of these warp flamers as opposed to the Inferno bolt guns. So since there should be about 10 of those, and I still have 9 of these guys to put together, I think I'm going to stick with using those weapons. So as I'm putting the arms on, I'll be using that as kind of a guide as far as where to position them. So we'll grab, let's see, number 94, which there should be 2 of them, and that should be on this one here, it looks like. Those are all in the 80s. These are all the... Oh, those are the... Here we are, 97, 98, 90. Where's 94? Here's 94. There are 2 of them there. And, okay, yeah, there are slight differences in the runes that are etched in on the side of the gun, as well as on the... I don't know if that's supposed to be a clip or a magazine, or... Not quite sure what the term would be anyway. But we've got the hand right there on the trigger, so this is where it's going to attach directly to the arm. Okay then, so let's get out the plastic glue and try our luck. I think I know what I'm going to do with these is I'm just going to put the arms on all of them first, then I'll move on to doing the shoulder pads and the heads and the back pieces as we progress. Okay then, so we're going to put the plastic glue directly on the torso. Again, just want to be careful you don't put too much on there. A little dab will do you. Oh, Kitty's back. And he's meowing for attention. I don't know if you can hear him, but he is being extremely vocal. And he's probably going to try jumping up into my lap at some point, or directly onto the desk, which should be interesting. Just hold that in place there until it solidifies a bit. Put the other side on there. Okay, Kitty is now trying to climb up my legs, but since I'm leaning forward to do this, he's finding it difficult to get purchased there. Oh, he is not happy. I love cats. Always have. And don't get me wrong, I love the hell out of Pixie. She is the best dog I've ever had in my entire life. And I've always had dogs in my family my entire life, but I've always been a bigger fan of cats. Just I like their independence and their portability. And yes, I know there are smaller dogs out there, but I don't know. When I think dog, I like the bigger dogs. Like Pixie, she's a border collie. Yeah, she's not a huge dog, but it's definitely not a lap dog for all that she thinks that she is. And she really is just a huge sweetheart. And very protective of her daddy. Okay, that works. Not bad. I think I got a little extra glue on the handle there. These are really going to be a huge pain in the tuchus to paint when I get to that part. All right, 1 down, 7 to go. So let's get another pair of arms. Let's grab 113 and 114. Oh, and there's Pixie wandering around in the background. If you can see her shadow there. I guess she's going to go lie down. Up, and there's Vivi. Uh-oh. You heard me talking about him. Love those little eyes just staring up here. How you doing there, Viv? Should probably start putting that in the descriptions of these streams. Animal guest stars. Okay, so let's grab another... Let's grab another 94. I like the way that looks. Oops. Okay, well, that definitely left a little extra of the sprue on this one, so certainly going to have to file that one down. Okay, there we go. That's better. Much better. If you're tuning in a little bit later and you missed the beginning, you want to see the touch-up painting I did on the Catan Shard of the Void Dragon earlier. On Tuesday, we're going to be uploading the video of this stream to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ToyWiz. And you'll be able to find all of our Twitch replays there. We also have plenty of other videos available. Box breaks if you're into any of the collectible card games, or just trading cards like some of the sports cards. We have box breaks there for those, which are a lot of fun. Sports card stuff is handled by Clifford and JD primarily. Magic the Gathering, got Chris handling those. Every Wednesday you'll find videos from me about the new comics that came out every week. You can also find still images of the stuff that I'm doing on the stream on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ToyWizCollectibles. And I also usually post on our Instagram and our Twitter. On both of those platforms, we're at ToyWiz Store. Okay, I think this time, instead of putting the glue on the gun, I'm going to put the glue in his hand and on the wrist. And, oops. And everything just comes falling apart. Rats. Okay, let's get the hand back on there. Do that one first. Now, given time, these are going to fuse extremely, stiff. But when they're drying, though they do get, a decent amount of, they do dry fairly quickly just for a basic dryness to them. Once you give them a little more time, they become like solid as a rock. Solid, solid as a rock. I'm going 80s now. Who the heck sang that song originally? I do not remember. There we go. Back that one up a little bit. Tilt it some. I think that's probably going to be the best. Definitely not one of the better gluing jobs I've done on this one here, but he's holding it. Now, as I was saying before, as you can see on this one that I did a couple months ago, once the glue is fully dried, it is It is there. You know, I'm going to do a quick check now and find out exactly who it was that sang Solid as a Rock. Ashford and Simpson. Wow, totally would not have guessed that. But there you have it. Ashford and Simpson did Solid as a Rock. Okay, let's grab some more arms here. What are we up to? I think 115 and 116. Oh, wrong sprue. Okay, here we are, 115 and 116. Oops. Yeah, I definitely think when I put together these torsos, I might have accidentally removed the pegs that are supposed to fit in on the shoulders of the arms here. I can definitely see parts where I cut them off of the sprues. I definitely filed them down. It's one of the things that's really annoying about the GW models. And I mean, they are gorgeous, don't get me wrong. They look amazing. They are extremely detailed. But the downside is, and it might be, part of, making them as detailed as they are. They don't have, clearly defined tabs and slots to connect things with. Like when I put together Sabine Wren from Star Wars Legion, it's like, okay, here's a peg. This leg just fits into the thigh at this point because there is a definite hole there, not just the impressions of them like they have with the GW models. But by the same token, these things look so good. It's like if you have to, have a little more trouble putting stuff together, if that's the cost of, making them as amazing as they are, then, well, you know what? I'll live with it. Okay. Let's see if I can finally get one of the guns in these guys' hands without completely ruining everything. The answer is yes. Well, that attached just perfectly. I'm just going to hold it in place for a little bit to make sure it hardens a bit. And, you know what I'm thinking? Since I've got, was it 8 of these guys? Oh, plus the guy with the gigantic Soul Reaper cannon. Maybe I will do some of them with the Inferno bolt guns. Just to, switch things up a little bit. I mean, they both look cool regardless. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I changed my mind. I can do that. It's my world. They're my miniatures. I can go with whatever adjustments I want. That, as always, is the most important lesson when painting, when assembling. I mean, when assembling, you have to... If you're playing the game, you do need to worry about what you're putting on there. So if you want to make sure you're getting a certain effect out of your units, then, yeah, you're going to have to choose that way. But if you're just doing it for purely aesthetic purposes, or if you have no idea what the game's about and you just like the way they look, then by all means, just do what makes you feel good. Okay, let's grab some more arms. I think, what are we up to, 17 and 18? Yep, 17 and 18. And let's put a little of the plastic glue in the hand, and a little on the wrist. And let's put this warp flamer in there. Okay, let's go back and just do a quick double check on the first one I did, and you can see it's definitely hardened a lot. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to get that gun out of his hands now. Alrighty then, let's move on to those Inferno bolt guns. We're still using the same arms. So we're up now 119, 120, I think. Yep, right down here. And each of these arms have like slightly different designs on the the arms have slightly different designs on the arms. But that's exactly what it is. They have slightly different etchings as far as the way that like their gloves look, or some of the flourishes on the forearms. Some of them are ribbed for your painting pleasure, some of them are smooth. Alrighty then. So yeah, let's grab one of these Inferno bolt guns now. We'll start with number 84, I guess. This one right over here. So yeah, these are all, still two-hander weapons like the warp flamers are, but they don't stick out quite as much on the end. Rats. Fell off, and I got some of that glue on my finger. which then transfer directly onto the shoulder. Thankfully, the shoulders get covered up with some shoulder plates I'll be applying later on, so we won't need to worry so much about that being a bit of a mess. Goodness gracious. These arms are not playing nicely with me today. Okay. Let's put a little glue in the hand and on the wrist. I think I've got that other arm up a little bit much, so let's try to lower it a little. Just so it's better, so he's aiming things a bit better. Alrighty. Not too bad. Three more to go, and then we move on to the shoulder pads, the heads, and then we wrap things up with the back pieces. Those should be a little bit easier than the arms. So we're up to 121 and 122. Wrong sprue, Carl. Where are we? Here we are. Smooth that down a little bit there. And let's get him a weapon. Let's go with number 85 next. Here we are. Now remember, when you're clipping the pieces off of the sprues, you want to make sure that the flat part of the clippers is up against the piece you're removing, and the open part of the clippers is up against the sprue. Because you want to get a nice, close, even cut on the parts that you're applying to your miniature. And if you leave extra plastic on the sprue, I mean, well, that's where it's supposed to be anyway. Music's nice and catchy. I like it. Thank you, Purple Planet. Now, for those of you for whom this is their first assembly video I've done, let me tell you a little bit about plastic glue. And it is, in fact, different from regular super glue, because the plastic glue is designed in such a way that it actually will cause the plastic to melt at the point of contact and then re-solidify so it's not just that you have, the glue itself hardening and holding the two pieces together. The two, plastic bits that are connected to each other are actually fused to each other just on their own level. Which will end up giving you a much more solid join there. So certainly something to keep in mind whenever you're putting your models together. If you're building plastic models instead of resin ones or metal ones, you definitely want to make sure you're using plastic glue, because that's what's going to make it nice and sturdy like these guys. Okay, next set of arms. I guess we're up to 123 and 124. I think these appear to be the last arms on here, so I guess the rest of them are going to be over on that one. Well, we only have 2 more guys we got to give arms and weapons to before we move on to the next phase. I'm going to try not to go too long today, especially since last week I did a full 4-hour and 45-minute stream, so I think I'll probably be wrapping up at the 2-hour mark at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So whatever, well, I won't hold myself necessarily to that time exactly, but whatever part I'm working on at that point, whether it's, if I'm already up to attaching the back pieces, then I'll finish all that up. But if I've only done the heads and not the back pieces, I think I'll probably stop and continue with the rest of them next time. Incidentally, there is not going to be a stream next week because we have artist Sarah Madura coming into the store. She has a really cool anime manga style. She'll be selling prints of her work, taking commissions, and she's going to be making a print that's exclusive for ToyWiz that you won't be able to find at her other appearances at conventions or whatever. It's going to be D&D related, so if you're a fan of high fantasy, it's going to be a nice little treat for you. We're only going to be doing about 50 copies of the print. We're also doing 50 alternates that are going to have the holiday theme to it, so the characters involved will be a little more festive. The background trees, instead of being regular evergreens, will be decorated up for Christmas. The usual trappings of the season. So by all means, pop in to the store pop in the store, this weekend too. Pop in the store at any point, because, we'd be happy to see you, and we'll be able to help you find whatever it is you need. But next weekend specifically, you'll be able to see Sarah Madura from noon until 6 p.m. on Saturday. That's December 12th. And she'll be back in on Sunday, December 13th, from noon until 3. So, yeah, please stop on by. We'll be happy to see you. Well, again, we're always happy to see you, but so keep on popping in. And make sure to stay safe while you're doing it. Always, masks are required in the store. We don't want anybody getting sick. Especially not us, because if we get sick, we're going to have to close the store down. We do not want that to happen at all. I just realized the last 2 guns I attached didn't have the nice skulls on the end. I should have noticed that and started grabbing from the other end of this, the numbering scheme. Oh well, at least they'll be a little bit different from each other. Okay, last guy, and we're going to use gun 93 for this one. So we need 127 and 128, which are... Is that right? This one actually has the full hand there. So I don't think that's quite right. But 125 and 126 are the same way. Very interesting. Oh, wait a second. They were supposed to be on that. Wow. I am out of it today. That side's supposed to have the hand. The other side's not. Goodness, it's been a long, long morning already. Go figure. Okay, so we're going to grab 127 and 128. And we'll get gun number 93. Because it's got one of those cool skulls on the end of it. 91, 92, 93. It's the fun part about doing these live streams like this. You know, sometimes you just completely make a mistake and everybody gets to see it. Okay then, let's get these arms attached. A little bit of the plastic glue on there. Rats. Again, for all the, it might be a bit easier to get a more detailed figure without having distinct tabs and slots. Goodness knows it would make it a lot easier to put these things together. Alrighty, there we go. All 8 of these guys are now armed, both in terms of having arms and in terms of having weapons. So let's move on to their shoulders and heads. Let's fold this up, give me a little more space here. So 7 and 8, of course those are on a previous page, why wouldn't they be? Okay, so I believe we went with number 17 for this big guy over here, so This next one, we're going to go with head number 18, and then probably arm pieces number 101. And are these all over here? I did use 17. 18 in the 101 we'll be using. It's funny that 18 is over on this sprue, but most of the rest of the heads are over on that one. Oh, there they are. My clippers got away from me for a second there. And these pieces are going to be a little bit easier to get on there. Okay, so next I need the 101s. That's weird. Why didn't I use the 99s? I wonder if those were supposed to pop up earlier. Certainly have some 99s here. Nope, definitely not there. That is rather odd that one of the shoulder pieces is just not listed there. Very odd indeed. Actually, come to think, okay, that's right. I did the sorcerer before too. He's back in my bag. Alrighty then. Well, let's grab the 101s anyway, just so as not to confuse me further. And yeah, the way they have these numbered is very odd. So 101 is down here and up here. Yeah, very strange numbering on them. And these also have very thick spots where they're attached to the sprues, so that's a bit of a pain in the tuchus. I hope I didn't damage that. No, it looks alright. Definitely gonna need a little filing though, just to smooth it out. Alrighty. And we'll grab the other 101. If I try attacking it from this side. That's better. Much, much better. Alrighty. Let's do the... I guess we'll do the head first. Put a little bit of the plastic glue in that little crater on top of his torso. And I'll just get the orb from his head right on in there. And then for the shoulder pieces, you can put the glue directly onto the shoulders on the torso. There we go. And the part with the little tab will go on the bottom right over the elbow. There we go. Much faster than putting the arms and weapons on. So there's one. And I think the rest of these are going to be on the larger sprue here, so we'll keep that on out. Okay, let's go with 19 next. And let's move on to 102, which are going to be the two of them up here. I think I determined last time. Yep, definitely easier to attack these from behind. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, hell, even if you're not enjoying it, it would help us out a lot if you would, follow the channel. This way more people can find our stuff. And, excuse me, if I start getting more followers, I can start doing some other fun stuff like running stream raiders while this is going on. So get some little interactive games going instead of just sitting here watching me poorly assemble and paint miniatures. Actually, speaking of stream raiders reminds me, I want to give a shout out to my good friend Dr. Red MD. It's Dr_RED_MD. He runs he does a stream where he plays primarily Fallout 76, but he's going to be playing Cyberpunk when that comes out next week. And he's been giving me a lot of advice as far as getting things set up and where I can find some nice royalty-free music, where I can whether or not my audio is coming through quite right. So he's been a huge help to this channel, so feel free to be a pal and help him out over at his. You know what? The heck with it. I'm going to finish these up today. They've been sitting around for long enough. They deserve to be wrapped up. Definitely should have filed that before I glued it down. My goodness, Vivi is so adorable when he's sleeping. He's just completely conked out over on my bed there. See, one of the nice parts about having a larger belly is that I can catch these things when they fall. Okay, that's a bit better. Whew, 4 down, 4 to go. And that is it for my seltzer. You know what? Let's go crazy and just take care of all these at once. Oh, that came off rather easily. Yeah, definitely thinking maybe I shouldn't just do the same thing with the, the shoulder pads. So this way I don't need to worry about finding the matching pieces. It's 103, It's also 103. Alrighty. Making progress. Now the rest of these are all paired up except for 107 here, which is in two different places, so I'm going to grab that one next to make it easier to get the rest of them together. Actually, I just remembered a quick correction from what I had said last week. For the duration of the holidays, I thought we were going to be open extended hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that's not the case. So our schedule remains the same as it has been. So Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Sorry about that. We're open from noon until 6 p.m. And then Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays we're open from noon until 8. Also, if you're coming down to the store today being Saturday, December the 5th as I'm recording this, we have representatives from JSA at the store who are authenticating autographs. So if you have an autograph that you want to get an official seal of authenticity for, so there's no argument that it actually is signed by the person who signed it, you can come on in. Depending on the piece you have, it can cost different things depending on what type of piece you have or how many autographs are on it and whatnot. So come on in with your stuff, check out the price list, and get your signatures authenticated from JSA. They will be there until 4 p.m. So if you're watching this live, got about 3 more hours. You can head on in there and get your stuff authenticated. Okay. Oops. Darn. Took a little piece of his shoulder pad off with that one. Battle damage, that's what that is. You know, these guys, they're fighting, and inevitably someone's going to, shoot them and chip a piece of their armor. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Okay, and that just leaves one more. Let's see, which one of these do I want to go with? I think these with the eye will look pretty nice, so we'll go with them. Alrighty, and that then just leaves us with the jetpacks, or I'm assuming they're jetpacks. And one of these guys is going to get the icon of flame just to make him look extra cool. So the jetpacks, it looks like, are 73 through 82. Icon of flame should specifically go on one of the ones that's here under number 10, so 79 through 82. So I think what I will do is I'll do that one first. First, I'm actually going to have to get the icon of flame, which appears to be number 12 here, 72. Oh, that's an eye. Oh, I think that was one of the possible heads for Ahriman's staff. Okay, I'm looking at the absolute wrong thing there. There's the icon of flame. And it is 72. Okay. And then any of the number 10s. So that's 79 through 82. 78. 73. 82. Well, 82 being the first one I found. Actually, it's got these little, like, skulls as the, on the shoulders, so I think that one looks cooler than the ones with the rounded bits, so we're going to go with that anyway. Pure serendipity. Okay. Looks like it's supposed to sit just kind of flat up there. There's a very slight indentation, as I was saying before. No nice tabs and holes. It's all about slight indentations and slight protuberances, I suppose would be the right word for it. And you just kind of have to try your luck with it. Ooh, things got quiet. Did my music stop? Well, that was odd. Okay, at least my video is still working. Let's try this again. Huh. Windows is not playing around too nicely with me right now. Okay, well, I guess things are going to be quiet for a little bit still. I'll put a tiny bit of the plastic glue right on top here. Hopefully this will sit on there nicely. Okay, that's not too bad. Server execution. Oh, that's right. For some reason, they feel the need to. One of the later updates for Windows felt the need to put everything into OneDrive instead of just letting them stay on my computer. So I guess I was having a little trouble syncing there. I'm definitely going to have to go and change that. Now then, where was I? Ooh, somebody texted me while I've been doing this. Take a quick look and see if it's work-related. And it's not. So I'll ignore it until later. Sorry, Brienne, my sister. Now then, let's see. Now the Rubric Marine with the icon of flame they have here is one of the ones with the smaller weapon. So maybe just for consistency's sake. Like I said, I don't actually play the game, but since this is a full start collecting kit, I can certainly use this if I do want to play a game. So I think I am going to try to stick with some of the stuff here just to not screw things up if I do end up playing with this sometime. I'll have to try to schedule a demo with Lewis to learn how to get this done. And then maybe challenge Chris to a game. And let's just tilt that a little bit so it's more centered behind his head. Okay, that's one down. 7 more to go, and then we are done with the Rubric Marines. So I'm just going to turn back a page to see what our options are with the backpacks, and I think I'm definitely going to make sure I use all the ones that have the skulls on them because they just look really cool. So I already used 82, and that was it for number 10 there. So it looks like there are only 2 remaining, 76 and 77. I know I saw the other one here a second ago. I thought I saw the other one here a second ago. Well, here's 77. And I wonder if 76 is over here, perhaps? Nope, those are just other weapons and other random pieces. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, but also the other back piece? Looks like everything else I have in here appears to be for the Zangors. I'm definitely not seeing any jetpacks or backpacks or whatever the heck those things are. Okay, it's got to be on here somewhere. I'm probably just missing it. So for now, I'll just snip out this one. We'll give this one to one of the guys with the longer weapons. What was that? Warp Flamer. I was about to say Flamecaster. I'm like, oh, it was close. Flame was in it somewhere. My phone continues to blow up with group messages with my brother and sister. But that's why I keep it on mute while I'm doing the stream. These other ones all have ridges on the tops of the backpacks, so the icon of flame wouldn't be able to attach to them because it's not flattened. So that was 77 I just grabbed. Where is 76? '74, 75, 77, 78, 73, 79, 76 already. Okay, I must have used that from one of the other guys then. So my best guess would be probably the. No, let's go back to the pictures. I wonder if I used it for the sorcerer. Yep, the sorcerer has a back piece like that too, and I don't have him up here, so I left him in my bag. That explains where 76 went. Mystery over. Okay then, well, let's move on to 73. I already used 74, which is right up here. I'm going to try to use the ones with the ridges on the tops as much as possible for the rest of these. Just a personal thing. There we go. I think having a bit more texture looks a little bit nicer than just a flat top, and considering how I only have one icon of flame that I can use, might as well get in there. Might as well try to get as much texture as possible as I'm doing these. Okay, that's 3 down, not counting the guy I did last time. 3 down and 5 to go. Let's grab number 75 here. Uh-oh. Did I get the tip clogged here? I think I did. There we go. Well, that was a close call. And then there were 3. And I only have 3 backpacks remaining here. Convenient. I think we have to figure out a way to sharpen this clipper, because the tip is certainly getting dull. Oops. As I put a divot in my desk. Okay, yep, definitely should have filed that top down a little bit more. Okay, one more and we are done with assembling these Rubric Marines. Alrighty, and we are done. So next time, which will probably be in 2 weeks, we're going to continue, or I guess begin, with the Zangors. Before I wrap things up, let me go get back the Catan shard of the Void Dragon. Let's see how he looks now that he's a bit drier. And here we go. A little darker, a little more definition on his body there. So there we go. Thank you very much to everybody who watched today and whoever was watching in the replays that we have posted up on YouTube. I will have a photo of this up on our Facebook page and up on our Twitter and our Instagram. So if you want to see a better quality image of the Catan Shard of the Void Dragon here, that's where to go. And yeah, once again, the store is open Mondays, Tuesdays, Mondays, Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from noon until 6 p.m. Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from noon until 8 p.m. Make sure you wear a mask. Keep yourself safe because we want you to be able to keep on coming back and joining us. And we will see you around. So thank you again. We'll see you in the next video.